Hi, I'm Hans Ekman. I'm your host for today's presentation, Building Emotional Fitness to Lead During Difficult Times. As with any advice, it's great to work with a career counselor, a coach, even a therapist before making any big changes in your life. Especially since we're talking about emotional fitness, it might be great to get a little professional help. These are some tricks and tips that have worked well for me, but may not be right for everybody. Absolutely no animals were harmed during the creation of this presentation, but I do hope that you will support your local pet rescue groups. To start off, I want you to think about how you feel. On a day-to-day basis at work, how do you generally feel? Think about this. What adjectives would you use? How would you describe it? Let's take a quick stress test. I want you to look at this image. Look at it wide, look at specific parts, move your eyes around. And I want you to think about how fast it's spinning. This is a stress test, and the faster either the ball or the center post is spinning, the more stressed you are. Well, at least according to a lot of Facebook and LinkedIn posts that were sharing this. Actually, this image is just artwork. It's created by Yuri, who plays around with different optical illusions. And our brains, when we look at this image, when we look at different parts, try and spin or add motion to it. And as we move around, the speed or the duration of that motion changes. So one of our first problems is we know that our senses are playing tricks on us. They alter our perception. And even more so, depending on how much faith or reliance we put into these perceptions, we may be tricking ourselves into thinking that there's something there or there's more significance than there really is. So what I want to do today is help you understand that it's not reality. It's our perception and how we deal with perception that is really going to affect our emotional fitness, our well-being, and our ability to lead during difficult times. So what is emotional fitness? Emotional fitness is being emotionally and mentally ready for anything that happens. And we know that we can't be ready for anything, but the more scenarios, the more situations we can be ready for, the better we're going to do. Emotional fitness has three key values to us. First, not only does it help us prepare and deal better with crises, but it'll actually help us cope with day-to-day events a lot better and with less severe responses. Next, being able to handle these situations calmly, confidently, will give us a competitive advantage over our peers and coworkers who might not be able to handle the situation as well. And it also will help us reduce the long-term damage done by stress, our response to stress, PTSD, trauma. We can lessen the impact and the duration of those impacts. Louis Pasteur shared a quote that chance favors only the prepared mind. And what we're saying here is by being prepared, by being aware, by having a toolbox ready to help you adapt to these changing situations, you'll be in a better chance to recognize opportunities, take advantage of them, and outperform your peers, which is really where the famous quote by Sir Hans Ekman comes from. If you are prepared, you will be able to outperform others and be in a better position to lead and succeed. Both, I think, are truly outstanding quotes. Let's look a little closer at some of the games and tricks our bodies play against us. First, there are two types of stress responses. The one we know most frequently is our fight or flight. That is the SAM response. It is the immediate boost when we're experiencing a scary or a traumatic event. But we also have to take into account our HPA system, and that is our longer-term stress and coping mechanism. So our immediate stress response, the fight or flight, is pretty well known, and you should probably recognize it. We get an increased heart rate. We tend to breathe deeper and faster to get more oxygen. Our digestive tract shuts off so that we're not wasting our blood supply. and insulin kicks out glucose from our livers to give us instant energy. This normally lasts a short period of time until the danger's over. We then recover, or if we've been in that heightened state for a while, we may get the shakes. We may have a little trouble adjusting as we come back down after that big spike. But when we talk about long-term stress, long-term trauma, dealing with emotional or physical trauma over a period of time, we're largely engaging our hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal response. And when this is activated, it's going to release a series of hormones that are basically going to keep our body in a heightened and raised state of awareness, focus, and stress to deal with situations. So as you're going through these longer term situations, your body isn't in the full flight or fight mode, but it's keeping itself as ready as possible. And unfortunately, if we stay in this period for long periods of time, we are actually doing a lot of damage and harm to our bodies. And I'm not going to read through all of these, but there are a tremendous number of side effects that the HPA system can cause if we aren't able to relieve our stress, get back to a calm and focused. This is why if you've gone through difficult or stressful or extremely busy and trying periods, the minute you get some time off, you don't feel that instant result. And it's because our bodies haven't recovered. We haven't come down back to that natural or rest state. And even worse, we may reside in this state for a prolonged period of time where we're really damaging our bodies. So those are two of the ways our bodies are reacting to stimuli. But let's take a look a little bit more about how we react to scenarios and how we treat them. I want you to look at these three pictures. And I want to think about, how do you compare? Which one of these would you say is a normal or healthy body? Or which one of these is a healthier and more normal body than the one you have? Maybe compared to your spouse or to your friends. Which of these women in these pictures represents a more ideal, healthy state if we were setting it for a goal? One of our challenges is that our perception misleads us. And there's two things going on here. These are all the same models, but by looking at her in different angles, her body, her shape, our perception of her and is different depending on how we see it. But our brains are processing these images and reacting to them. So you may look at these and say, wow, I'm healthier or better than all of these. Or, wow, 2 or 3 of these are healthier and more active and better bodies than I have. Because we have this natural tendency to compare ourselves to only those people that are better, only those situations that are better. So we're putting ourselves down and creating a negative response. That immediate judgment, that restructuring facts and perception to fit a preconceived notion or to play into our personal narrative, especially when it's negative, requires cognitive restructuring. We need to be aware of this and start to retrain our brains so that we can recognize and react better to these scenarios, so we don't create this damaging cyclone of hate and self-loathing that happens to a lot of us. There's 5 key techniques that are part of cognitive restructuring. And as you've noticed at the bottom of each of these slides, when you download the presentation, there's a link to more information to help you implement and learn more about some of these techniques, because I know in this short period we can't cover enough. The first thing is, if I'm not aware, I can't take action. So we need to improve our self-monitoring. We want to be more aware of what we're doing, why we're responding, how things are working. Next, I want you to question your assumptions. I want you to look at and challenge, am I making assumptions? Am I jumping to conclusions before I've gathered all the information? which means I probably need to step back and gather more evidence. When we saw the 3 pictures of the women, maybe I need to see what they have in common. What are they different? Can I see them or compare them to others? I might not have enough to form a conclusion. I then want to perform a realistic cost-benefit analysis. What is the outcome? What are the choices? What is the cost-benefit? And that lets us gather and start thinking about alternatives. If we don't like our first couple options, look for other options. Can we find things that are more positive or beneficial to us or to others? So by using, learning, and refining these 5 techniques, we can put our brains in check, stop us from creating these devastating thought cycles, and come up with more reasonable expectations. Think about the next time you're arguing or disagreeing with somebody. Are you assuming the worst? Are you trying to assume that they must have meant the worst possible thing, or it's about you, or it's negative, or this ties back to an argument 4 years ago that you won but they don't want to concede? And instead say, is there a more positive way I can look at it? Are there other alternatives? Are there other explanations? Can I just ask, is this person referring to something, or what do they really mean, instead of trying to be psychic, which we aren't, and guessing what they mean? A technique to become more self-aware is mindfulness. This is a deliberate and focused awareness and acceptance of what we're thinking and feeling. We need to take time and think about what am I thinking about right now? How am I feeling about this? What is my general mood? How does my body feel? These things we want to start build in, so we're constantly reflecting and self-monitoring our bodies, our minds, and our emotions so that we're aware of them and can start accepting them as okay before we can start adjusting them and moving them forward. So this mindfulness is a combination of being aware of your situations, being introspective about what it means, accepting the outcome or how you think or feel about it. And this really builds to mindfulness. Our next step on the cycle is emotional validation. And here we want to accept the fact that it's okay if we're mad. It's okay when we're happy. We might be sad. We might be tired. We might be down. My body may just ache because I've been sitting in this chair all day long and I haven't gotten up and stretched. It's okay. Those feelings are valid. Nick Wignall, quoted here, has an amazing newsletter that I encourage you to subscribe using the link in the slide. And he says negative feelings, no matter how intense, can never actually hurt us. This is like watching a horror movie. And except for the ring, the characters can't come through the screen. They can't harm us. They're not going to haunt our house. The dolls in our house, if you unfortunately still have any, are not going to come alive and try and get you. We need to accept that our feelings are okay, but our feelings aren't necessarily the outcome, and they're not trapping us. To help us with situational awareness, I'd like to share with you the color code of awareness. This was actually developed as a situational awareness technique, primarily for more defensive or safety situations, but it also applies to social situations as well. So the first one is condition white. This is basically, we're chilling, there's nothing going on, we're relaxed, we may or may not be that aware, but we're kind of at our calm and most peaceful state. We have a normal heart rate. Condition yellow is when I'm now paying a little bit more attention. Nothing bad is happening, but I want to be more aware of my situation and what's going on around. It is okay to be in condition orange most of the time, condition yellow all of the time or most of the time. If you are going out shopping, when you get out of your car, are you aware of your surroundings? Is there anyone backing out or pulling up? Is there anybody approaching you that you may want to keep an eye on? Are you keeping a safe distance from people while you're shopping to be a little bit safer? These are just normal things you want to build into your everyday so that you're aware. For me, we have a senior dog. So part of my condition yellow situational awareness is keeping an eye on her to see, did she walk in and get trapped and is having trouble backing out of a location? Did she have another accident on the carpet that I need to clean up? So I'm not really worried, but I'm kind of watching out for these things, and my heart rate is normal. When I start to notice a situation that I might need to be worried about, I switch into condition orange. Now our heart rate is going to kick up a little bit. We're starting to engage the SAM response, getting ready for fight or flight if we need it. If you hear arguing from another room, if I hear my dogs barking, I immediately become concerned and I need to see what's going on and is it something I need to react to. Condition orange, you can't keep up for a prolonged period of time or your HPA kicks in and it can start burning you out. When you kick into full action, this is when you've gone into condition red. You are now in fight or flight mode. You want to be as in control as possible. So you're not going to give in to the fear and run in terror. You're not going to just blindly start swinging or arguing or screaming at people, but you want to start executing your plans, your escape plans, your confrontation plans, your critical conversations at work. Now you're in a conflict and you need to solve it. And you need to de-escalate it as much as possible so that you can return to orange. We can't stay in condition red for long. So this is our immediate panic. I've got a flat tire. Can I get the car off safely to the side of the road? Can I get out safely? Now I can calm down and worry about the changing the tire safely. We want to be careful to not slip into condition black. Condition black is when I've given into my fear. I've given into the terror. If you've watched people in horror movies or in a disaster, and something bad is happening and they're just standing there and not reacting. Everybody else is running and they're frozen in place. This is what happens when people give in to condition black. It is the worst possible scenario because you have lost the ability to respond, to think, to act rationally. And this is where we make horrible choices, horrible decisions, horrible mistakes, or become a victim. Especially in the workplace, we never want to get into an argument where we shut down and create a career-limiting move because we slipped into condition black. I encourage you to learn more about the color code of awareness because being aware of these situations, when you're home, you're safe, you're secure, condition white is fine. Most of the time when you're around or interacting or just generally aware, I encourage you to practice you're increasing your situational awareness to condition yellow and carefully have plans, rehearse scenarios, conditions. If I get an accident, what am I going to do? What if it's late at night? What if it's a deserted place? What if I get a call from a family member? How am I going to react to it? Plan out and rehearse and create these plans ahead of time so that you can stay in orange and minimize your time in red and never slip into black. There's also a condition gray where you're starting to slip and you're making bad choices. But usually, whether you use that one or not is also optional. Next part of being aware of our situations is that the volume of what we're perceiving is not the same as the reality. I have to pick on my mom a little bit because she is guilty no matter how much I've tried to talk to her about this. After 9/11 happened, after other disasters happened, after political things happened that she hated, she becomes glued to the 24-hour news channels. And she is so overwhelmed by the same message pounding over and over and over again that volume clouds her, pushing her into condition red, pushing her into condition gray, where she thinks the volume of information has now overtaken the reality. And we need to separate ourselves when this starts to happen. We want to escape that echo chamber where we're looking for or we're listening to opinions, assessments, guidance that is doing nothing but confirming our bias. This is also true in the workplace where we need to get feedback from a variety of sources and we don't respond and think the same way over and over again. As part of this, I implore you to try and unplug from news and social media. Reduce the amount of time. And instead, can you time box your time on the news or social media to certain periods of the day or certain themes? I listen to the news while I'm getting ready every morning. I listen to the radio. I check my news aggregator to see what the top hot headlines are, but I limit it to about 15 to 30 minutes. If I am down or depressed, I skip it that day because I don't want to push myself further into that fear zone. In the evening, I like to unwind. So I'll pop up something like Facebook or some of the sites that have funny memes, or I'll see what my friends are doing. But I time box it and I say, I'm going to spend 30 minutes and then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to work hard to not pick fights or get into arguments online. Because when it comes down to it, I want everybody to try and live by the serenity poem. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So many of the people I've worked with, and I've been guilty of this myself, we get caught up on focusing and fighting continuously against things that we can't change or influence. If we think about the people who are losing their minds right now over climate change, none of us individually can stop climate change. Humanity may not be able to stop climate change, but we can do little things to not make it worse. We can do little things to reduce fuel consumption so that our fuels will last longer. We can do a little more to find alternate energy sources and save and recycle, and it will make the world a better place even if the temperature doesn't change. So let's focus in on those things more locally that we can influence instead of worrying about the things we can't. Even the other day, I was speaking to my wife, who is doing some wonderful work implementing some trauma remediation programs for a county school system. And she's stressed and starting to doubt the work she's doing because there's some things she can't influence. There's some changes that have to happen in the system with the leadership before they're really going to be effective. Those things will change, but it's going to take longer. It's going to take longer to influence them. So she needs to have the patience to continue and change these things and push forward and get more allies before. Look how far we've come socially, economically in the last 5 years, the last 25 years, the last 50 years, what we can do. Just think what we'll be able to do 5, 25, or 50 years from now. So don't lose hope, but don't try and tackle the whole thing at once. For me, one of the biggest stress relievers I went with was to become, in essence, a prepper. And I know prepping has a very bad connotation, but if you have a purse, a backpack, if you have items in the glove box of your car, guess what? You are a prepper. You have prepared and are carrying items you think you might need in case something happens. A spare tire, jumper cables, lipstick, anything you need, cash. That is the essence of being prepared. And I realized that the things that were stressing me out, if I was prepared, if I had a plan, if I had a support network that I could turn to, I was a lot less stressed about them happening. So unfortunately, when COVID hit, a lot of people were caught unprepared. We saw the same panic buying and the same fear-driven purchasing that happens anytime there's a disaster. For me, I had already made a decision many, many years ago that I wanted to be able to survive any weather incident or any disruption that might last 3 days, a week, and building to being able to be relatively self-sufficient for up to 3 months. But even just being able to last a couple weeks, when the pandemic hit and the lockdown happened, I reviewed my plan, I looked at our supplies, I felt good about it, and instead of panicking and trying to buy toilet paper, I bought a cake and a pie and beer because we were going to turn the first week or two of it into a party so that the emotional stress would be easier, because I knew it was going to be a long haul to get over this. Unfortunately for me, I didn't check my cabinets enough and ran out of olive oil, but we were able to cope. So having a plan, having tools, having friends can help you. There's two other techniques I want to share with you that have been extremely powerful to me in helping me cope with difficult situations. I am an introvert. I hate groups. I hate meeting new people. It is very stressful. And I really hate conflict, especially if it's conflict with people that have a higher position or status than I do. So for me, if I'm going into a crucial conversation, I'm going into a situation that's going to be uncomfortable, I rehearse that ahead of time. I talk through the issues. I play almost like a puppet show, both sides of the conversation, and talk through the scenarios, talk through how I'm going to respond, and see if I can't work through. My mind generates far worse scenarios than typically happen in person. So by the time I get into the scenario, I've already worked through the stresses. I've already worked through my responses, and I'm a lot calmer and better prepared, and they go so much better. So I encourage you to do this, whether it's alone, whether you call up a friend or someone from your network to act as a sounding board, but do this when you're facing these difficult or crucial conversations. The next thing is we can turn to outcome-based visualization, which is a therapy technique. So instead of trying to figure out and look at your past and things that went wrong, instead, let's visualize, like a vision board, what would success look like? What is our goal? What is it that we want to achieve? And more importantly, write down, how would I know if I was successful? How would I know if I had achieved that goal? And what would need to happen in order to get there? So, couple quick examples. I know during the pandemic, weight gain was a problem for a lot of people who kind of ate. For me, I actually lost 50 pounds. Unfortunately, it was the same 5 pounds over and over and over again. I was not very good at trying to get down to my desired weight. I know what I want to look at. I can visualize how I will look, how I see myself in the mirror. But it's more than that. I know the general weight I'm going for, so I've got one measure. But more importantly, I know which belts and which clothes I want to fit. And regardless of what my weight is, if that happens, I'll be okay with it. If you're looking at career goals, what is the position you want? Where do you want to be in 5 years? How will you know if you've achieved that successful position or you're in that dream job? What would need to happen to show that you're ready for that job when the opportunity comes? Think through these things, visualize, and script the critical steps. The next thing I want you to do, especially when you're feeling stressed or feeling anxious or really intense, is I want you to try a breathing exercise that is so silly it can't possibly work. What I want you to do right now, and do this along with me, I want you to slowly inhale a deep breath for the next 4 seconds. I want you to hold your breath for another 4 seconds, or whatever is comfortable. Now slowly let that breath out for the same 4 seconds, or whatever your time period is. And repeat this cycle. It can be 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever's comfortable for you. Repeat the cycle in, hold, let out, hold, and repeat. If you're in an argument, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling angry, like our senior dog just peed on the carpet again, I'm going to take a couple deep breaths, and then I'm going to go get stuff to clean it up. Because I need to cognitively restruct the scenario. I'm going to use the breathing to bring me back down so that I can look at alternatives, assess the situation, not through a haze of emotions and stress and fear and anger, but through a more clear lens. And I'm going to look through options. I'm going to look and see what is the cost benefit and move forward from there. Because at the end of the day, I really believe that if you're prepared, if you're improve your self-awareness, if you can practice emotional fitness, including cognitive restructuring, emotional validation, and recognizing, validating, and improving your thoughts and feelings and reactions, you will be much happier, you will be much stabler, and able to handle any situation. And when these stressful situations all the way to full crises arrive, you're going to be in a better position to succeed and lead and help others. I really hope you've enjoyed this presentation. All of the presentations I have are available on my website for download for free. If you have any questions, if there's any way I can help at all, please reach out to me by email, connect with me on LinkedIn. I try and post and share multiple articles, multiple tips every single week on LinkedIn and on the Facebook page. So please, if you found this valuable, I encourage you to connect with me. And honestly, if there's any way I can help, please let me know. When you download this, you will also see a number of additional resources, including the references I provided here, to help you take the next steps. So I want to thank you so much for coming today, watching this video, and I hope you have a safe and healthy year.